Hi and welcome to this section of this playlist. So in this video we're going to be talking about the blog detail page. That is, anytime we click a particular page, it takes us to the blog detail page. So this is what we're going to be talking about today in this video. Now the first thing that we are going to want to do is create a view that actually returns the blog detail page. So what we need to do is go to our views.py file. We're already there, and then what we need to do is create a new view function. So I'm going to say dev article detail, and then I'm going to pass in request here, and I'm going to return render the article.html page. So I'm going to say return render, then I'm going to pass in request. Okay, there is an error here. Return render request comma blog app / article.html HTML, and then once I do that, let's just save it. Now the next step is to create a URL for this view. So we'll head to the urls.py file, and what we need to put here is a comma, and after putting a comma, we'll create a new path, and then we're going to say blog-detail and put a / there. After doing that, we're going to now pass in the view that we're mapping to. So we're going to say views.article detail, and we're going to give this a name of detail and put a comma here. So once we save this, that is all we need to do. Now we're going to come back to these URLs to make some changes, but for now this is all we want to do. So what we need to do is now go to the web browser and go to / detail. If you go to / detail and I run this, it says page not found. Okay, let me try putting a blog-detail. I believe that is the URL I gave it. IL. Okay, so it says templates does not exist, so I typed in the wrong template URL name. So it's supposed to be blog app / article article. Let me troubleshoot this and come back. So the issue is here where I didn't put the G. So once I save that and go back to refresh this page, the error should be fixed and the page should load well. Okay, so it has loaded. So this is how the detail page looks like for now, because we haven't properly linked the CSS and JavaScript. So what we simply need to do is go into this article.html, and then where we see the link to the style sheet, let me search for that. The link to the style sheet, which is here, we're going to replace it with the correct link, that is the link to the style sheet that we had put on Cloudinary. So we're going to copy this link from the index.html page and come back to the article page and paste this. Now we're also going to do the same for the JavaScript file at the bottom. So I'm going to scroll to the bottom of my index.html and copy the correct link to this JavaScript file. So I'm going to copy that, go back to the article.html, and I'm going to replace this main.js with the correct link. So once I save that and I go back to refresh this page, when I refresh it, we should see the CSS should kick in. Yeah, so we can see this is how this page looks like. Now what we simply need to do is we need to now actually build a mechanism where anytime a particular blog is clicked, let me go to the home page. Anytime a particular blog is clicked, it grabs all the information of that particular blog and displays it in that page. So let me go to the article page, blog / detail. So anytime we click a particular post, it brings us to this page with the details of that post, that is the title of the post, the author, the date it was published, and the content. So how do we do that? We do that by using the slug view. Now I'm going to show you how. Go back to the urls.py file, and where you see this blog forward blog-util, we want to put something else. So we're going to say str, and then we're going to pass in slug. Now basically what we're trying to do here is, let's put a forward slash. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to pass in a variable through the URL that we're going to grab in the views.py file. Now I am still going to explain this, just follow my lead. Now once we've done this, the next thing I want to do is go to the article.html page, and then we want to start replacing all this content by the contents that we're going to get in database. So if we go back to the web page, we can see this is how it looks like. So what we want to do now is actually replace all this dummy text with the correct data from the database. So how can we do that? Let's head to the views.py file. Now where you see this request, we're going to put a comma, and then we're going to type in slug. And then I'm going to explain what I'm doing here, but just follow my lead. Next thing we're going to do is we need to get the post. So we'll say get post is equal to post dot object dot get. Now what we want to say is slug is equal to slug. Now let me explain what is going on here. Anytime the URL is clicked, the slug of that particular post is going to pass into the URL right here, and then it's now going to go to this particular view in our views.py file. So we're now grabbing the slug from the URL here, and then we're trying to get a particular post in database that has a slug of whatever is coming through from the URL. So you're going to see how this is going to work. Now we want to return this post as a context dictionary, as a context to the front end. So what we're going to say is we're going to say context, context, and we're going to equate that to a dictionary, and we're going to say post. Post is going to be equal to get post, and then we're going to pass that into this return render. We're going to pass this context in. Now once we've done that, what we simply need to do is we need to go back to this article page, and then we need to replace all this fake dummy text with the actual content. So where we see this looking for some feedback, that is the title, that is at the top here. So it's the title. So what we need to do is go back to this place where we have this tag h2 tag, and replace it with post.title. Now while replacing it with post.title, we're passing in post as the context, and while we're saying .title, we're saying .title because in the models.py file, the name of the field that handles the title of the post is named title. So that is why we're saying post.title. Now what we now need to say here is the author. So we're going to replace this with post.author. So we're going to say post.author. And then the next thing we need to do is we need to replace this with the date that the post was published. So we replace this with post.date, date. And then the next thing, we are going to ignore this number of comments for now. The next thing and the most crucial thing is now actually the content of the post. So let's clear this out and only leave one paragraph tag behind. So we're also going to clear everything inside this paragraph tag. And what we simply need to say here is post.body. I believe it is .body. Yes, as you can see here, post.body. So once we save this, the last thing we need to do is now post get the tags of this particular post, which we need to be displayed at the bottom over here. So what we are going to say is we're going to remove about 3 and leave only 2 behind, because each post has only 2 categories. So what we simply need to say is we need to go back to the models.py file and remember that it has 2 categories, first category and second category. So what we're going to pass in here is it's going to be post.category1. So we're going to say post.category1, and over here we're going to say post.category2, dot category 2. So that should be all we need to do here for now. Now the next place that we need to go to is the index.html. Now remember that, let's go to the home page. Okay, yeah, we need to fix that later. So we need to go to the home page to check something out. Now what we said earlier is that anytime we click a particular blog post, we want the link to take us to that detail page with the content of that particular post. So what we need to do is we need to edit the link of each post right here. We need to pass in the slug into the link. So we need to do that from the index.html page. Remember, we're passing in the slug because that slug is going to be a unique identifier that's why using to get that particular post in the backend. So what we need to do is we need to go back to this article page, index.html rather, and scroll to the bottom, to the top, where we have this first for loop. We need to now replace this URL, this href. We need to replace it with the correct URL. So if we go back to our urls.py file, remember we give the article page a name of detail. So this is what we are going to use to link to the detail page. So what we need to do is we need to link this dynamically, and then all we say here is URL, and in quotes we pass in detail. Now we also need to pass in something else. Remember, from the URLs it also requires the slug, which we put here. Now we need to pass in the slug in this URL. How do we pass in this slug? All we simply need to say is i.slug. Why are we saying i.slug? If you remember from the previous videos, here we wrote a for loop and we said for I in posts. So this I is for what? So what we're doing here is we're looping through every post in database and displaying it in the front end. Now what we also need to get is the slug of each post. If you go to the models.py file, you remember that each post has a slug field. Now what we're trying to say is, okay, passing the particular slug of this particular post into this URL. So what we also need to do is we need to copy this and post it in some other places. So let's copy that, come here and paste it. Now note that if we come back, we also need to paste that correct URL on this slider, because this sliders also act as links to the particular blog post detail. And also here in this featured post, we need to do the exact same thing. So what we simply do is we go down to where we have the slider, and then we replace this link with the correct link. But what we need to do is we need to replace this I with J, because here we said for J in posts. Now we also need to scroll to the bottom where we have featured post, and then where we have this href tag, we replace it with this correct URL. Now we're going to leave it the same because here we are looping through using I as the iterator. So we're saying for I in post, so we're going to leave it like this. That should be all we need to do. So let's save this file and go back to our web page and reload. Fingers crossed, I hope this works. Now let's click the second post, and we can see we are brought to this particular page, and then we can see it's the exact title of this blog post that is showing, C language works. And if you scroll down, we can see the exact contents from the database. Now to show you that is the exact content, if we go to the database, the admin dashboard, and we go to the post and we click C languages rock. If we come here, we can see the body. You bring file second where don't worry, this is just dummy text. Now you can see the exact same thing that gets displayed in the detail page. Now the last thing we need to fix is we actually need to get the URL for this image, for the thumbnail rather. So what we're going to say is in the article page, what we simply need to do is scroll to the top to look for where we have the thumbnail, and then where we have the thumbnail here, we need to replace it with the correct URL. So what we're going to say is post.image.url. So that should give us the correct URL. Let's go back and refresh the page. So once we refresh it, you can see the picture loads instantly. So now you can see that the title is being displayed, the author is being displayed, the date that post was published is being displayed. I'm going to work on these comments later. So you can also see that we can see that the content of the post, that is the body of the post, is being displayed right here. Now what we need to work on is the tags. For some reason the tags are not showing, so let's try to make a change here. Let's make it let's try post.category 1.name. Let's try to add .name here to see if that will fix this error. So once we try to reload the page, let's see if it shows. It doesn't show, so I'm going to debug that and find a solution. So a better way to do this is to query and get the categories in the back end and then send it to the front end instead of having to write some code here. So what we simply need to do in the back end is that we need to write code that gets category 1 and category 2. So I'm going to say get cat1 is get cat1 is equal to get post dot category 1, and then we're going to change this. We're going to double that, and then we're going to replace this with get cat2 is equal to post dot category 2. So let's make sure those are the correct spellings for the model. Okay, first category and second category. That might have actually been the error I made in the front end, but anyway, let's do it this way. So we're going to say category 1 is equal to get post dot first category, or are we going to say first category? Let's go to the models of PyFile. This is first category and second category. Yes, so we're going to say get post dot first category, and we're going to remove this one. Sorry for my mistake. Now I'm going to say get post dot second underscore category. Now we're saying this because in the models.py file, these two fields have been given the name first category and second category. So what we simply need to do here is we need to return these two categories as a context in the context dictionary. So we're going to say cat1 is get cat1, and then we'll say we're going to put a comma here and a comma there, and then we will say cat2 is going to be get cat2. Now we need to save this in our views.py file and go back to the article and change this to cat1. So we change this one down here to cat2. Hopefully that works. So let's go back to our code and refresh. So once we refresh, you can see that our code is working perfectly, and the two tags for this particular post are now showing: programming and C++, and the title is showing C languages rock, and the image and the content is showing. So everything works perfectly. Now for this auto detail page, auto detail, let me just show you how it looks like in the real template. So this is how the auto detail looks like. So you can go ahead and just add whatever you want there. So this is how it looks like, but for me, I'm just going to leave it blank because it's not one of the major things we're focusing on in this tutorial. So that is all for this video. I hope you learned how to go about displaying each blog post, each detail of a blog post in the article page, and I hope you learned a lot from it. So thank you for watching this video, guys. In the next video, we're going to talk about creating models for the comment section and how to actually display this comment in the front end, and we're also going to talk about how to make this form work for commenting. So thank you for watching this video, guys.